It's like the duck name.
Hello, everybody. We're going to start settling in. My name is Julie Polsinelli. I'm the Assistant Director and the Gallery Manager here at Valley Arts Center. So tonight we are here for Ekphrastacy, Artists Talk, Poets Respond. So the way tonight is going to go is that we have quite a few of the artists here that are in this show, and they will get up, talk a little bit about their artwork, and then a poet gets up and is going to respond in poetry. So, a couple of things. I want to say thank you to Heights Arts. Thank you so much for this partnership.
Great.
I also want to say thank you so much to our sponsors for this exhibition, which is Carnegie, Premier Bank, TKM, Ancora, Hamlet, and Patent Pest Control. And of course, our programs are made possible in part by Ohio Arts Council and the Cuyahoga Arts and Culture. So, another warning, there might be a little bit of spicy language tonight. If there is and you're a little upset, I'm so sorry, but I can't say that the wine is on us, so have another drink.
The drunker you get, the better we sound.
That's exactly right. Best night of the year. So with that, for any of the artists that were unable to attend tonight, I will be reading in their place. So I'm going to be starting off with the first couple of artists before Ray McNiece gets up to do his first poem. So the first artwork that we're going to be talking about tonight is Tom McGallis's Saffron Picker. So Tom said, as a young child visiting Greece, I witnessed my aunt harvesting saffron near Kozani, where hundreds of farmers crouch over fields of blooming crocus flowers for hours, picking what has long been the world's most expensive spice. Saffron, known as krokos in Greek, is a highly treasured not only for its delicate, unique taste, but its vibrant hue and because of its painstaking, labor-intensive harvesting process. So with the first poem tonight, Ray McNiece.
Thank you so much. I don't know, do I need this? Should I use this? Can you hear me? I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight for this wonderful exhibit, for one thing, and also to hear these fine poets that we've assembled for you to give their take on this, because it's all about that ekphrastacy, that moment of interaction and communication between art forms. So it's always great for us as artists, because many of the techniques that we share with musicians, Dennis is in the house today, musicians and visual artists, we have the idea of line, we have the idea of rhythm, we have all these things in common. So it's great for poets to undertake this. And I was immediately attracted to this because I spent several months in Greece myself, and I fell in love with the country. And the textures of this work are unbelievable. It's the emotion that it conveys from the scene, this agricultural scene here. It's Malay's benediction kind of painting, I guess, Malay. It kind of reminded me of that a little bit. It's called Devotions, and those are the crocus. They're picking those for saffron. Has anyone ever done that? You actually have done it, Michael? Tell them how painstaking it is. Painstaking. Not only is the harvesting of it, but you pull the little tiny threads of the stamens. Yeah, exactly. Devotions. Wings dry by sunrise, the flies weave a slow politica lira fugue over fields of sudden crocus. Up before the crack of dawn, bescarved, her aching back bent to the lay of the land, clothed in sear blouse and blue skirt. She's been harvesting these blossoms for centuries. Frescoes of her labors were uncovered in the palace of Minos. Caravans from Castile-La Mancha to Khorasan Rajavi have passed through Kozani. But that's news to her. Hunched in her devotions, the squeak of the plucked crocus and the soft plop in the basket, her face an icon as she gazes upon this nativity, this holy blooming fortnight, the grape harvest already gathered in, the olive harvest yet to begin. It is a look both wondrous and worried, for she has only a few hours before the sun burgeons the sky and wilts the blossoms. Later she will delicately pull the stigma, those long red pistils, conduits for the blood, almost immortal at the heart of the sun. It must be done that very day, when stored in the dark, leaving red golden stigmatas on her weary thumb and forefinger. She will glean over 4,000 blossoms, all for just one handful of saffron, weighing less than a hummingbird. But now there are only these devotions, with only an occasional pause to rise on cracking spine and hold aloft the crocus. Next up, we have one of my favorite poets in town, and someone you've seen here before at this very gallery, and one of our other Ekphrastacy events, Sujata Lakhe.
Really quickly, first I'm going to do the artist, I'm so sorry, the
Oh,
statement.
sorry.
And if you look close, you might see my assistant taking out saffron picker. But first, the next piece that we're going to talk about is Lisa Schoenberg's artwork right here. So this piece is called Global Aberrations. And Lisa says, concerned about our current climate conditions, this image is meant to bring to light the concept that warmer global temperatures and fertilizers leaching into lakes and ponds can create a buildup of organic matter that is abnormal. Although the lush and verdant surroundings may be pleasing, it's a huge warning sign foreshadowing problems with our natural environment. Using this type of imagery and symbolism, it is my intention to inspire people to care for the earth in healthier ways.
So this is we're talking about Global Aberration by Lisa Schoenberg. And I saw that when I first saw this painting. Like it's created by exposing sunlight, I think. And its appeal is in that it's caught the sunlight. And I was about to go to Umbria, Italy. Next day I was flying. And I was thinking in the plane, and I was going to this place called the Green Heart of Italy. And one morning when I was there, I was thinking about this painting, and I was walking in the landscape dominated by sloping hills, olive groves, vineyards, and cypress-lined roads, and the mist was rising from the valley coming up above. It was still dark, so I couldn't see much, and it was just in whatever I could see in my mind, not so much with my eyes. But as soon as the sun came up, things around me shifted, and I could see how we humans have changed the way the birds live, the plants grow, have cut out roads from the hillsides, and we think we can build forts to stay safe, but I don't know about that. So thinking about all these things and thinking about this art, I had this poem which is called Golden Hour. Where is the flute? The flute which sends notes of scent on the mist from the valley, soaring songbird, softer boundaries. I want to sing like that, words to fall like dew, catch sunrise like diamonds. On each blade of grass and on the tip of a nascent bud, I want my internal noise to be filtered through the facets, to refract, to crystallize, for words that care. sun comes up. The white facade of sycamore looms in the dawn, its bare branches frozen against the sky, plays host to quarreling pigeons. Suddenly flying off, circle the smoke wafting from the kitchen. Some return, carrying in their beaks all their worldly goods. The white stone of the fort starts to catch down cannon ports, perfect for the collared doves to strut. Squawks, chirps, chattering, dots of darting yellow at the scraggly tip of an obelisk spine. Canary it was not. Tree leaping like green fire from a carpet of persimmon hues, the sun falling with equal generosity on living and on the necrotic. Wait, what is that I see? Burnt orange, leaves falling, on whose back winter glides.
All right, our next piece that we're going to be talking about tonight is Susan Griffin's work here. So Susan says, Sparrow was inspired by the beautiful hedges and wildlife I saw while walking along at the Firth of Forth in Scotland. The base is made of cotton strips, pieced and woven on a 60-degree grid. The sparrow was embroidered separately and then appliqué to the base. Additional fibers and beads elicit the thick foliage. Next up, we have Michael Loderstedt.
Well, this work ticks a number of boxes for me. One are birds, which I have a fascination for ever since I was a child. I think birds sort of connected me to art and the environmental world. And then secondly, textiles, which is, if you really must come up and see this, is beautifully rendered with the most delicate of hand. And thirdly, wordplay. I learned a new word with this work, a firth. Do any of you know what a firth is? A firth is an estuary in Scotland where a river meets the sea. So my poem is entitled Light Enters the Firth. When you enter the meadow around the firth of the river Forth, the light prismatic, as the eye of an insect, each facet a tiny quilt. It is your first firth, not fourth or fifth. That's another river. The firth opens to the sea. See forth the first sparrow alight on a blade of grass. Each feather a stitch in time, saving not nine, but thine. A bird from this hand, worth two in the bush, surely. Gaze again. Upon the meadow, your third firth, rich with ribbon and bead, embroidery fine, the light falling fast, falling across the tips of the grasses. The meadow of this firth, a fine place to lay your head and stretch out on the soft moss. Watch the sky cube itself into ice. The sparrow swaying atop his strand and singing your name.
Okay, the next artist is actually here to speak for himself, I believe. Troy, if you'd like to come to the stage. So M's piece is going to be, sorry to have to turn around here, is going to be this lit artwork right here. And M will tell us more about it. You don't want to use it?
No.
You're going to have to shout.
I'll share.
Okay?
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
It's a small room. Addiction's a bitch. Now, whether it's drugs or alcohol, I mean, it's really, it's horrible. It's for the addict. They're all messed up and, ruining their lives and that, but it affects everyone around them as well. It affects their spouses, their lovers, bosses, friends, and that. And it affects the children. Now, everybody but children can leave. Children gotta stay. And they get raised up in a toxic environment, learning all sorts of stuff, and they can't, it's difficult for them to really come through and, be a part of life like a normal human being. Whatever normal is, because when you grow up in addiction or you grow up with all that environment, that's normal. So, I grew up in a dual alcoholic home, and I spent most of my life as an adult child. And through recovery, I did a transformation from becoming an adult child into becoming an adult. And so I've been working the last 5 or 6 years really processing all that and working through all the stuff that goes through the records that are playing through my head to try and come to terms with, does this make sense? I believe a lot of stuff. I believe that I wasn't worthy. I believe that, I just believe a lot of crap that people told me. I didn't have the wherewithal. I didn't have the sound foundation to really stand on my own. So this work that I'm doing here, it's really, for me, it's very cathartic. Because I can take some of these things and I work through these things and process them. And believe me, when I get to the end of it, I feel really good. I feel, it's like I can take this, I can feel this, I can sit with it, I can accept it for what it is. I can say, do I want to hold on to this anymore? Or do I want to let this go? And through the most of the part, through my process from survival to recovery, I just do this through my art. And I really hope that that resonates. Because I think what I'm doing is really part of it. I'm not the only one. And this is a human condition. And what I'm trying to get is to get things that actually resonate with other people in the human condition. I'm really honored that I was selected. Somehow this resonated with somebody because they wrote a poem about it. As an artist, we try to convey the human condition through visions. Poets, they try to relate the human condition through words. And I got a lot of respect because I'm not really good with words. So, thank you.
Yeah. What do you mean? I beg to differ, man. That was quite a beautiful monologue. Thank you so much. Wow. The poem may pale in comparison. Is Willow here? Willow, thank God you're here.
Here you go.
Thank you. Oh my God, I'm so good. Thank you. I'm glad you made it. Ooh, we were going to have to read your poems.
I know. I selected this piece because of the way that I select the piece. The way that I like the okay, see. The way that I like the piece spoke to grief and reminded me of this phrase from Toni Morrison called a second-hand lonely. The sad part is I believe them. When they said my magic was dirty, I spent 3 moons of river tide in Pittsburgh sucking starch off of potato skins thinking, this will heal me. This is what it means to be clean. I took the bourbon brittle grief netted into my breastplate like an armor of God, shattered it and kissed the mosaic into the wind, called it the ash of a phoenix rising. I took my mind, my beautiful black mind, the seat of millennia of past lives, kneaded it smooth of whispers, normal, finally, I said.
Our next artist who's going to be speaking tonight is John A. Sargent III, after which we will have McNiece perform.
I think I'm loud enough. I don't know if you do this. Hey everybody, how are you doing?
I'll take the microphone.
I just want to celebrate and honor Julia and Meg because they're creating this, and it's the Valley Arts Center is a whole new world than what it was 5 or 6 years ago. So I just want to let you guys know how awesome these instruments of partnership and collaboration that are emerging are so important for all of us, particularly the arts community, which is nothing other than communication, partnership, and relatedness. So, yay! All right. So, Portent is a creation and an evolution of many strands of thought that I will not share and expound about too much, but I will give you a foundational story that occurred sort of 2007, 2008. I was working on some commissions during a period where I was making nice paintings for nice people as a profession, and that was great. I was making tons of money, but I was soul-sucking and I was dying, and I was becoming ever more professional, ever more about execution, ever more about detail, ever more about precision, because that's what I thought the expectation was as a professional artist. So I have a son, his name is Quinn. I had left the studio to go do some emails, I can't remember what, but by the time I came back in, and there were about 5 or 6 commissions that were sort of around the studio, he had picked up my brushes. He had paint all over him, he had paint all over the commissions, and he turned to me with glee in his face and he said, "Dad, we're painting." And it was a profound moment for me, and he sort of became a hero in my life at that moment, because I realized that I'd become a professional, but I'd lost the cause of why I was an artist in the first place, which was to be generative and creative, not to give the already, but to be transformative, to speak outside of the world that we live in. And this very much speaks into that. The extension of everybody wants to know what the goddamn splatters are. Well, that's what that is. That's the joy and the play and the glee merged with, I'm a professional artist, goddammit, I can't help it. And then in terms of the subject, portent, and the cloud, what kid doesn't look up and say, oh, it's a bird, it's a plane, Superman? I was looking at shapes and forms for a while, and came up with something that kind of looked like the United Kingdom, kind of looked like an old lady wearing a hat, kind of looked like a big spaniel dog or some fun thing, and it sort of satisfied the need of not knowing that you're getting into the territory that life isn't answers, it's just living through it, and it's all questions. So, portent. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
Again, the prose poet here. That was wonderful. And that is exactly what drew me into this, were these little splotches over here. So when you told me that story, the story just then, I was like, oh yeah, that's it. Because it serves a functional purpose. It adds depth, perception to the painting, so you're looking into it now, and you're following it up into the shape, right? And I had several different ideas of what the shape was, and I'll bet everybody in this room has got a different idea of what animal, or paramecium, or whatever it may be, or leaning tower of foam,
And I've been doing a lot of sky gazing these days. Poets do that. We look off into the memisphere. Quite often we're looking off into the memisphere. We're looking often also for portents. Because things, to quote Shakespeare, are out of joint. Times are out of joint. Hence, we augur from the clouds. One dark cloud billows, impends. Beyond, of course, white cirrus shoals, ripple shores of placid blue. Reassure, reassure, reassure. But that one dark cloud does billow, impends, portends. Does the cloud form to the shape of the mind, or the mind to the cloud? This cloud added to the compendium of forms, navigated skywards by way of words since childhood. Animals mostly. The shadowed underside of a white mare, galloping, a blob fish scowl from depths surfaced, or raw chicken carcass splayed on glass case. And oh, remember what faces loomed over first sight. Worried, angry, loving, changing, moment to moment, lighter than darker. This dark cloud billows, impends, as mind, gray matter itself, skull cracked open to sky, already augurs how this cloud could whirl all constructions into ignorant faces, blot out the sun for months on end, or scour barren landscapes with iron dust. One cloud billows, impends, and portends, as mind, by way of words, makes shapes of breath, sounding, darkly passing.
So
Shakespeare.
our next piece is going to be this wonderful work by Julie Martin. You do not have to readjust your eyes. She really does look exactly like this. If you'd like to come on up. I know it's like seeing double well, except for the back.
I could twist my face.
And then after Julie speaks, we will go back to Michael. Would you like a...
Yeah, I don't know, Mike. Am I
Hello?
loud enough?
You want to try?
Warm. I've always been an artist, and I went to art school and decided I would make a better living being a graphic designer, which I don't know if that's necessarily true. So I was a graphic designer for many years, then a stay-at-home mom, then back to graphic designer, and now I'm a full-time artist. My goal is to be a professional artist, even though I've always been an artist. And so what this is, it waits just there, is a feeling of trying to figure this out, where I understood graphic design, I worked for corporate jobs, and what's funny is I'm honored to be in this show, and this poetry combination is it. So it waits just there, this is it. So that's really cool.
This is it.
Yeah. So,
Seek no further.
I just quit that.
So when I saw that one, I immediately thought of a poetry by Amrita Pritam, who is a Punjabi poet, and she has written a book called 50 Fragments of Me. And I think it also goes by, because it's a translation from Punjabi, it also goes 50 fragments of my inner self. And I was looking at it and how the figure in it has her breath held, and yet she seems hopeful and floating and trying, yearning and reaching for something, and at the same time, as if she has found it. And then fragments in the face, fragments of the hand, and there is this water lily which is floating above between the sky and her, and that also adds hope, but at the same time creates impediment. And so a lot of contrasting, a lot of contradictory thoughts and various fragments going in different ways. So the title, After It Waits Just There by Julie Martin for my poem, is Made of Legos. Each piece a story, 1,000 tangents in the light, circles within circles, imperfectly fitting joints. In brokenness, thumb, signature of my species, reaching out on its own, still unbound. The foretelling lines on the hand, fragmented for the throbbing heart, well formed for the head. Held breath, blue-green floating world, unbroken mirror of the sky, my pieces drifting apart, I tear unseen, hand reaches, a piece falls. Suspended in the space, fragments of self, wanting, reaching, manifesting water lilies from mire, desire from the dark depths to the blue skies, a chase, a dance, a chance. Like a puzzle, my floaty bits fit with my heavy sinking ones. My biogenesis, right there in my grasp. Perhaps it is all about rising from the murk, the sun unseen, not fitting perfectly, but not unlike many colors folding like silk.
The next artist was unable to make it tonight. She's currently working on her finals, so we will keep her in our thoughts. The next artist is Violet Mainberg, so that's going to be this piece right here. Violet Mainberg's sculptures tell stories of lost love, the pain and misery of being human, and the small moments of beauty found between people. She graduated from the Cleveland Institute of Art in 2021 with a BFA in Sculpture and Expanded Media, and she is currently pursuing an MFA in Sculpture and Expanded Media at Kent State University. Violet's work has been shown nationally and internationally. Okay, step up, Michael.
So I was really excited to see that this work wasn't chosen, and not only because it was compelling, it's a very compelling sculpture, but also because Violet is a golden flash like me. I taught for 32 years at Kent State, so I was thrilled to speak about a colleague who I don't really know. So my poem is called Stroll. A baby blue stroller folds in on itself. The infant, a single scoop of Superman ice cream, perches on a satin pillow like a wedding ring floating upright past the guests, past the cameras. You might push this frozen baby ball and watch the melting of this rosy world, this deconstruction of delight. There's still time for long strolls past white picket fences, the wheels catching sidewalk cracks. There is still time for wrapping in lace and waiting for daydreams. There will be a time when all thoughts will be warm ones, the closed circuit television edits of our past piling up leaves at curbside, the pieces of our fortune, all silicone and latex.
Alright, the next artist is here, Michael W. High. Would you like to come up? You knew what was going to happen.
I'm not good.
Neither am I. We'll get through this
Oh, you're
together.
going to take it over. This is Voices from Another Room, and this is my sculpture. It's all my work, since everyone's talking about their work in general, I'll talk about my work in general, are usually personal narratives. It's often hard to see them, but each character has a place or means something. I do a lot of prose hidden amongst things, and raptors and birds in general usually represent harbingers of something. So they lead or give a message to the characters. Animals I always use to present the human condition, especially anything that might be a difficult topic. And that goes to, you know, marginalized people and things like that. In this case, it's about inner voices. So really all of us are pronoun they, because we have, you can call it intuition, you can call it, you know, sixth sense or whatever. We always have the little thought that's like a voice in our head that comes from a distance as we're making decisions or moving through life that warn us or tell us to go for it, or why are we being warned. And that's mostly what this is about. That we listen to them whether we believe we do or not. And sometimes it leads us to greatness and sometimes to ruin. And that's what it is. It's basically a big decision process. And so that's it.
Something I'm realizing actually being in this space is that the pieces I chose kind of have a synchronicity. I didn't mention this when I read for the first piece, but it was inspired by an LSD-induced psychotic episode that lasted for years in my life. And that piece represented, when I read that, I thought, when was the last time I died? And it very much brought back to me the time I lived in Pittsburgh. And then when I saw this piece, Voices from Another Room, the animal character reminds me a bit of a jackal, and it reminds me of like the integration of like this split identity that occurred. And so this is the piece I wrote in response. After Voices from Another Room. I am a liar. The truth has fled from me. I am light in exoskeleton with no vital organ to protect, a yellowed husk of shade. I invite a boy over. He sees the white walls off which my moans echo into something like laughter. I am a cockroach hull of a house, paint chipping off the blue-gray interior, the thick of something dead and wearing a human leather thick in the air. When I walk into my home, I see a paint can, beige peacoat, several bald hangers, hospital cleaning supplies, a long hallway, a threadbare dining room, cold wood floors, dust and dog dander in the corners of the ceiling, pale light, an empty hairdryer box, white mail slips, a gray, maudy, disorganized chaos that is perhaps reflective of my own Dust Bowl chest cave. My gloom is a roommate, is a haunt who takes up space regardless of what I say because we are married. We paint in grayscale. I am a liar, and the truth has fled from me.
Our next artist tonight is going to be Rachel Kavlitz, talking about the piece Living on the Edge, which is this work right here. And then after which, Ray McNiece will read his poem.
Thank you. Good evening. So, I I'm a self-taught artist, and I've been creating now for about 6 years. So I'm thrilled that I was chosen to be part of this exhibition, and thrilled again that you chose my piece. I'm really looking forward to hearing what you say about it. I'm a collagist. I create my collages using upcycled materials. This piece is magazine paper and tissue paper. No pigment at all, it's all paper. And the tree is my favorite tree. There's actually a pair of them. And they're on the in the North Chagrin Reservation at the just behind Squires Castle.
Yeah.
You know that?
Yeah, of course.
It's my
Can't
favorite.
forget that tree.
It's my favorite tree, and I always say hello to it. I see it about once a week,
Yeah.
and in passing, I always acknowledge it. I'm drawn to the exposed, intertwining roots. And its ability to, and strength and ability to hold on despite the eroding earth beneath it. It even survived, both of them actually, even survived the tornadoes that went through in the summer. A lot of the other trees around, they were splintered and uprooted, but these two are still there. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Great piece, thank you. Very environmental piece too. By the way, I just want to make note that I feel like we're at church. Don't you feel like we're at church, people? Come on now, we're having testimonials here left and right. I love it. I love to hear this stuff, man. This is the church that we need, right? The church of art.
Amen.
Woo. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. Now I'm going to talk about dirt, because that's where I come from. I'm a poor dirt farmer. My people were Appalachians, hillbillies. Lost the farm during the Depression, came up north to work in the war plants. But anyways, I come from the roots like that, and that is a white oak tree, and that is probably a Moses Cleveland tree. The Moses Cleveland trees are the trees that were here before Moses Cleveland was here, or at the same time as Moses Cleveland. So there's some 300-year-old white oak trees in North Chagrin Reservation, and I'm friends with a lot of them, including this one. And one of the reasons it didn't come down is because we had a drought all summer, right? The weather's all wacky if you haven't noticed. We had a thunder blizzard on the shores of Lake Erie a couple weeks back, a thunder blizzard. So it was lightning, thunder, and snow all at once because the lake's so warm that it just dumped, about a foot, honey, and branches were coming down, wires were coming down. You know, we forget that the roots, that's where we come from the great God dirt. And that's what I'm here to preach about right now, the great God dirt. Man, and when I say man, I mean man unkind, thinks he is God of the earth, or at the very least, king. But no man can ever usurp the great God dirt. That 6 inches of fertile topsoil and rain remain the basis of our very existence. Without roots, we'd be dead. Clutching after the things made of this world and coming up empty every time, but for a handful of sand. The sands of time. We're living on the edge now. We're living on the edge now, on the thinnest of margins. The wisdom of the elders falls from the last trees, and our words of warning are seeds sinking into the book of soil. And what will ever grow from all our talk of these end times? What will ever grow from all this talk of our end times? Thank you, brothers and sisters. I speak for the trees, said the Lorax.
I hate having to go after you. Next we have Helena Sarah Richardson, if you'd like to come up and talk about your work, which is Green Evolution, which is this absolutely gorgeous piece that's on the wall here.
solution simulates layers, striations of land, flow of water, heat of the sky, and vibrancy of life. Aquatic creatures slip in and out, as do the strings, as they bind and stack in slow, eccentric wefts, moving left and back and right and left. This hand-woven cloth tracks and narrates my view of the perpetually evolving earth.
Green evolution. It stimulated a memory from 9th grade when my family went on a summer vacation to Srinagar, Kashmir. How things were so simple there. When the weather demanded, people simply retreated to their homes and adapted. When one looks at the beauty of our green earth and our own evolution with it, one cannot help but wonder if we keep using our environment as mere resource, and even our knowledge of science to only exploit nature for short-term gains, how long will it be before it could come all tumbling down? And looking at this piece, if your eye travels from the bottom to the top, as if they're like geological layers, things ending with orange and kind of up in flames. So much building throughout, and so much traveling through the time, and where are we gonna go? And so it kind of inspired a haiku, which is a travel poem. Usually it's about travel. You travel in this particular form of poem, and it also has a haiku, which talks a little bit about nature. So just so you know that it has short paragraphs followed by short haikus. Even today, all the traffic almost comes to a standstill when the snow fills the Kashmir Valley. People retreat to their firewood hearths, eating haq greens harvested as needed, even when the frosted chinars stand stoic among snow-capped peaks. Kangri, filled with hot ember, nestles under thick woolens, close to one's heart. Women sit on their haunches to weave carpets and down on thimbles to embroider shawls. Leaves take leave. Younger men leave, well before the snow, to mainland India to sell the goods door to door. Sitting on the front porch of my house, I see the rickshaw full of rolled carpets being advertised by a distinct call, Kashmiri carpet le lo. Young men, often with blue or green eyes, muscular and with proud posture riding atop the goods. My puppy love crushes. Their lovely lives up in the mountains. Compulsory rest. Absence of bullfrogs warning. No mates. Dirty snowmounds. Scattered broken mailboxes. Tire treads imprint. In middle school, I learned that colligative properties of solutions, when a salt is added to a water container, it lowers its freezing point. This scientific discovery is used every day to clear snow, as I discovered when I immigrated to Northeast Ohio. I see large city trucks dumping hundreds of tons of salt on the roads, ants marching early in the morning, cheap and effective, convinces the city budget makers. The fish and the wild grass make a note. Tweak their metabolism to evolve, see another day, another year, and revolve around the sun. Glistening glaciers, human hand casts a shadow, ice melts.
Our next artist is also unable to make it tonight, so I'll be reading for Maeve. This work that we're going to be talking about is right here. This is Funeral Brainerd Road. So Funeral Brainerd Road explores the possibility of roadkill treated with empathy. What if we mourned the animals killed rather than left them by the road? What would that look like? This painting imagines an encounter with a red-winged blackbird lovingly laid to rest on a bed of flowers. Next will be Michael Loderstedt.
Another bird. Or, I couldn't help myself. The title of my poem is called Slight Fragrance. 3 billion birds, grackles, sparrows, robins, tanagers, buntings, warblers, piping plovers, least terns, royal terns, ring-billed gulls, Icelandic gulls, and yes, red-winged blackbirds. 3 billion birds are gone. A third of North America's adult bird population. 3 billion. Loss of habitat, predation by house cats, window strikes. Glass skyscrapers of New York have killed 230,000 just this year. 3 billion birds falling from the sky, piling up on the streets, filling your yard so thick you could almost drown among fluttering wings. But one, his epaulets, bright orange and yellow, too small, winged flames, iridescent and blue-black. One tiny speck spun down and landed on this bouquet of lilies, pale blue hydrangeas, barely fragrant. But that was all we needed to make our bed.
Our next artist speaking tonight will be Gwen Waite. She will be talking about her wonderful work, women's work.
Make this work. I hate public speaking, probably any more than anybody, but I completely forgot when I said I would do this, that this was the part of it. It's okay.
It's all right. Speak your truth now. Come on, sister.
So I grew up with a dad who was an artist. He was a potter, and I was always surrounded by art, but he was also a very non-sentimentalist. He didn't like clutter of any kind. He didn't like my toys anywhere. He didn't like anything. He liked clean space, even though he was a potter, but that would all stay in the studio. So I had a tendency to save and collect everything that I could find, and then make anything that I could find, because we also didn't have a ton of money. So anything I could find was to my amusement. And even though I went to school for sculpture and ceramics, because I thought, I brought up in ceramics, maybe it would speak to me. And I appreciate clay, but I can't, it isn't my venue of, my mode of transportation for art. But when I started using the things that I had all around me, the found objects, but then I also used what my father had given me, which was a 3D appreciation. When he would tell me to load up the van and put all the pots in there, and I would spatially just play a mental Tetris. And this goes here, this has to go here, this, and I still, in my studio, I will have 5 works going at the same time, all on the ground because gravity is my nemesis. But then I'll move things around and I'll look at it and I'll leave it and I'll come back to it. And one thing that I really appreciate about using found objects, and especially utilitarian pieces like these ice picks, is how much they've been touched by other hands and how much, and I never want to clean them. Like people have always like, they're kind of dirty. But to me, that just, all the hands and all the use, it's so important and so valuable to me. And I love to take that utilitarian object and make it into an aesthetic. And also how M said that he's like an adult child, I am too. I'm still always working out my own therapy through art. And this piece was kind of in that whole idea of being stereotyped as a woman and what's women's work, and me rebelling against that and saying, you know, F you, I don't have to do what you think is what I have to do. And I like that I turned the ironing board the way that I did, because it also kind of looks like a coffin, which I really like. And also kind of has like a, kind of like a shrine feeling with all of the ice picks and the shadows that they make. And so, it's my piece.
I really love this piece. I think I love the antique silhouette. It seems to house a lot of felt memory, and I love the raw elements that went into its construction, the raw iron and metals and wood and straw. Those are all things I very much value and am attracted to in my own life. This also reminds me of the figure of like a McNiece or a power figure from like Central African sculpture. And following like the chronology of these pieces, my death, my integration, and then my transformation. I'm also a trans femme, a trans woman, and entering this piece through the understanding of my womanhood brought forth this poem after woman's work. Stonewall cunt, the rubble of cornerstone brick in my teeth, railroad iron for a jaw, I am hot. Iron black kettle sizzling off the stove top. Boiling black cat cauldron, I am a bitch. Howling at the invisible new moon, dragging nails across my flesh. Why am I here? Gasoline guilt weeping off my skin, I am a flammable stench, apt to self-implode at the turn of the nose. I am a bitch. Not charmed, more cursed, the bitch they warned you about in the woods, the bitch with the penchant for kissing devils with forked tongues in their hooded mouths. I am a bitch with a 10-ounce T-bone heart, marble fat, wine red, plush, and on my face, I am stuck with plain Jane Virgin Goodall, beard and all. I look like my prison, like a decent bitch you'd never take for a wicked witch. When I tell people I am dangerous, they don't believe me. That I am a horsehound wand with the safety off, a brain that spells curses in the alphabet soup.
All right, so we are on our last four poets. This is the last time that you're going to be hearing the poets tonight, so make sure that you cheer extra loud after each one. The next artwork is going to be what won actually our first place award. So this is David Heatgold's piece. It's entitled Insanity. David unfortunately cannot be here tonight as he is living, I think, 5 out of 7 days right now on his big rig truck. So he was unable to make it tonight. He even made a video in his truck explaining the piece, but unfortunately the video is not working right now. So I do apologize. You'll have to hear it in my own words. Well, my voice, his words. In this painting, titled Insanity, Mandela Blend with a hint of gladiolus blossom, I explore the mystery of the phenomenon of the Mandela effect, where something exists as seen in the reflection. Still, most people will ignore or not spend enough time contemplating the reality that something bizarre is happening and has happened in reality. The flowers coming out of the teapot stem, symbolize a personal mystery that can be read about in my memoir, Transcending Coincidence. This is the first painting of my Insanity series. With that, we have Ray McNiece.
Yeah, by the way, thank you, Will. This is the first time I've ever heard this wonderful stuff. Oh, thank you so much. And of course, thanks to my compadre Michael and Sujata as well. And thank you all for coming out. This is my last chance to say thanks to you all for supporting the Church of Art. I'm a bit of a surrealist myself, and I love this kind of, I love all these pieces. I mean, it's kind of like you can put your hand up there and really feel the energy coming off of them, you know. I mean, they're really, every piece in here is coming out of the frame, right? That's what we love about art, that they're like coming into us. It's like the sun's, photons are coming into us. The light from these paintings and these fabrics and this wonderful piece, it's flowing into us, you know. It really is a church of art, you know. It really is. And I love this one, and I love because it's kind of he's very inquisitive fella, you know. I like the questions that this piece asks of us, and it invites us to question. So this is called An Inquiry into the Coincidence of Transcendence. Snail, why are you so soft? And your shell so hard? A swirl of this world and beyond. Maybe you're smart after all. Your slimy trail across rotting stump leads to this soft, lit, hard world. Where I sit in the garden savoring morning tea, steam from green pot curling into hearts of gladiolas, opening over an onion dome cathedral reflecting from its shining side, as if all things come down to light streaming through the sky, through the air. And butterfly, why these particular colors? We call you monarch, as if that were ever your design. May as well ask the ladybug's unhinged gleaming shell, or the hummingbird's green blurry whir, or the hornet's iridescent buzz, or the black and white death moth pondering hover. Why fly so high? Ask Da Vinci why. After buying every caged bird in the market, he set them free. Ask yourself, why this urge of words issues from golden cage of ribs into the very air from which we are all born.
All right, our next piece is going to be our last poem from Sujata. It's going to be based on Sean Maven's work, Lorenzo. So it is this work here that is actually created on a pawpaw leaf. So afterwards, please come on up and see that it's actual leaf that it's created out of. But let's see, Sean says, I transfer my images on leaves, in this case a pawpaw leaf, using sunlight. Lorenzo was a coworker. I showed my work, and he asked me to make it into a leaf. I did.
And as you can see, that the pawpaw leaf is not perfectly symmetrical. Its petiole is a little bit off, and its center is a little bit off, and it lives in all the really symmetrical trees like oak and maple, and it's true that it's a tropical fruit which escaped to Northeast Ohio because it just does taste a little bit like pineapple and mango. When I looked at that and saw the face transferred onto it, and I think the process itself is so cool, where it's the chlorophyll of the leaf itself is used to create various shades by hammering. And so it reminded me of a lot of people leaves. Like in India, if you go to any temple or any art place or roadside, they have this people leaf which they soak overnight and remove all the pulp. And on the skeleton, which is a very strong skeleton for this particular leaf, they would draw various images. A lot of times it would be Krishna, because that's like the most well-known figure in India, and so they would draw it with either paint or sparkle, and so this is kind of like the leaf and a face on it, and it makes me think about how everything is integrated and connected. The nature, people, we can superimpose things on each other, and you know, I mean, humanity, we intrinsically know that that's true. It is all connected. So make me into a leaf. When one looks at the veins of a leaf, after one has taken all the flesh out, they look remarkably like a tangle of tubes in human lungs. Nose for the body, stomata for the leaf. One inhales, other exhales. A circular exchange, a delicate balance. Life-giving fractals are the same in you. When one looks at a Hindu temple, it generally has a spire called Vimana, as if pointing an index finger to the sky, which spins in your skin an eternal sun. Your heart pendant merging with petiole anchoring, and yet flexible to move with the wind, an umbilicus to the universe. Nature painting nature with the pigment found within. We hammer impermanence in place. Thank you.
Our next artist speaking tonight will be Pamela Historic, and she will be talking about her wonderful work here, which is Point of Agreement.
This might be the smallest piece in the whole show, but thank you on this name. It's called Point of Agreement, Contractually, Deal, Settlement, Understanding, Reconciliation, Left versus Right, you decide, and there could be any other addition that you could add. I work in, it is a fibula pin, which is the type of pin that's like a precursor to the safety pin from ancients. And it's a type of pin that I like to work in as a beginning of what the piece will be below it. It's all hand fabricated in sterling silver. It has hand engraving on the sleeves as in business attire. There are blue synthetic sapphires that are bezel set on each cuff, like cufflinks. And the piece is oxidized and it's given a brushed finish. It's part of an Antique series based on old-fashioned imagery that I've been working in for a while now. And I've enjoyed the old-fashioned Edith Joes, the old pointing hands that you might see anywhere. And there was one particular on the way when my daughter was working in Kansas. It was huge on the roadside, and I just always got a chuckle seeing that one. And you can be found all over America in buildings. This piece is the only one so far that brings together two hands, and there's any number of explanations as to why, and you can think of yourself as to what two hands together mean. But it can also say a lot about what we will all wish for, perhaps agreeing on something. And wouldn't it be nice if that was peace? So that's the piece.
They say powerful things come in small packages, and certainly this work is exemplary of that. So this poem is called Handshake. On December 8th, 1987, Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev signed the INF Treaty, effectively dismantling most nuclear weapons. Polish artist Krzysztof Wodiszko projected two enormous hands clasped in a handshake, silver white in dark suits, cufflinks out onto the UN building. Bright hands above the East River, a beacon of hope against inevitable mutual annihilation. George W. Bush was said to have a weak handshake, like a dead fish. Foreign dignitaries joked privately until it got firmer, more confident, like a man. Bill Clinton held onto your hand, lingering as he looked into your eyes, not as a threat, but affirming, I am here for you. Donald Trump dislikes offering his hand. Too many germs. He hands out bottles of sanitizer at meetings where there might be handshakes, each printed with his name. Politicians, preachers, car salesmen prefer adding another hand over and on top to reinforce the bond. You should be wary. They may never let you go.
The only president's hand I ever shook was Clinton's hand. It was outside of Praline Connection in New Orleans, and he did that very thing.
Yeah.
And he said, I said, you did a great job, Bill. And he goes, thanks, man.
Anyone else? Any other presidential? Okay, so last, but definitely, it's time for me to go to bed. Definitely not least is going to be the artist Judy Takis. And she'll be talking about her artwork, Calypso Says So Long Ago. Afterwards, our final poet will be Willow Watson.
I think I'm just going to try to be loud instead of doing that, please. Instead of doing the microphone. So this painting, Calypso Says So Long Oh, is a result of last year's painting that I did, which was called Circe Happy Solo. So, and this is where, okay, let's go back to the beginning. So last year, my painting was Circe Happy Solo. Ciara Friedman, who is the Cleveland Heights Poet Laureate, chose Circe Happy Solo to write her and perform her poem for, which was amazing to watch. And as a result, I asked her to pose for me for my Goddess Project series, which she did. So this is that painting. The general concept, this is actually part of a triptych. There's a third piece that maybe it'll be in next year's show. I don't know. Basically, my Goddess Project is something that I've been working on for probably about 60 years now, where I look at the mythology of all the religions through a contemporary feminist lens. And I rewrite a lot of mythological stories that have placed bad stereotypes into our collective thinking. For the triptych, that this is Calypso Says So Long Oh, Circe Happy Solo, and the third one is about the sirens. It busts the myth of the unhappy, lonely woman who needs to trap a man in order to be happy. All three of these stories come from the Odyssey, written by Homer, which is this epic, mythological, clearinghouse of like every mythological character appears somewhere in the Odyssey. And there's a repeated story. It's like three parallel stories where you've got a lonely goddess woman on an island. Odysseus, you know, is like so attractive or whatever that this lovely goddess woman enchants him and brings him there and keeps him there because she falls in love with him. And the same thing happened with Circe. She, you know, attracts him to the island and tries to keep him there. When my Circe painting, Circe Happy Solo, she's happy to see him go. You know, his ship is sailing off in the distance. She's got her piglets because she's very happy there with her animals. Calypso's story, similar, goddess, lonely island, traps Odysseus, keeps him there enchanted. I think she enchants him with her weaving, like hypnotic weaving and stuff. Calypso is a goddess, and the other gods convince her that it's unseemly for a goddess to trap this mortal guy and like be in love with him and keep him there. So they convince her to let him go and, you know, give him the hammer and nails to build a ship and be on his way. My Calypso is not only giving him the hammer and nails, she's building the ship for him. She's putting her image as the maidenhead and sending him on his way, happy, so long, oh. So that is, and the Sirens one, it's a similar one, you'll see hopefully next year maybe.
Now we got it.
Same general concept, you know, the Sirens are the ones that whose beautiful song lures the sailors to their death and everything. And my Sirens are kind of like, let me sail on. So, and I am so psyched that Willow has chosen my painting for the thing.
I was so happy to see this piece. Wait, where did you go?
I'm right here.
Sorry. Further back. So yeah, I would say this final piece, if it was my death, my integration, my transformation, this is my creator. Ciara is a huge figure in my life.
Did you recognize her in the?
I did. I thought that was Ciara. Yeah. Huge figure in my life. Really a hero, a legend. So after Calypso says so long call. Amongst seafarers, Ciara is a cadet, a rogue spire in the deep blue, my lady of the lake. Fashioned after the cockamamie grin with which God wrought the world into life. Let me tell it, in the beginning there was God and a mustard seed, and God suckled it because its bitter pepper was good, was medicine to a mauled God. After an eternity of suckling, the wet of God's mouth beget germination, and the mustard seed etched a root across the passage of time until she forged herself a gap in God's maw. God, discovering the gift of salt, spat the seed into the primordial vermiculture of existence, and amongst the splendor of shit and castings, the mustard seed sprouted a tuft of evergreen. Stripped from her shell, the mustard seed opened what she felt as eyes, but could not pierce the vast womb of God. She wept. And as she wept, the water clung to her till it formed a globe about her. She wept until there were constellations of seas about her, and her seas beget oceans, her grief multiplying in ripples. God, though spurned by injury, could not ignore the crying out of their own blood. And thus God waded through galaxies of salt and water in search of God's begotten. And upon finding her, the heart of God lit aflame. And as the seam of their lips parted, the sun leapt through the portal of God's gap-toothed smile. Swallowed by the light of the one who beget her, light crystallized in her tears, and thus daughter beget honey, and she made a home of it, named it Cleveland, cradle of the jungle.
once again thank our poets again. Willow, thank you, unbelievable. Michael Loderstedt, this guy has been hypnotizing me. Vince, thank you so much. Let's hear it for Vince. Thank you once again to Beck and Rachel, everybody involved with bringing this Ekphrastacy. It's the Church of Ekphrastacy. Don't forget it, brothers and sisters, the Church of Ekphrastacy. Saturday night, I'm doing a gig with the band Drum Play. It's a benefit for the Northeastern Ohio Coalition for the Homeless at the Tree Lawn Ballroom, where my wife Nancy and I were married just last year. So come on down to that. And Sunday we have our Tongue and Groove Poetry Music Jam, which this month features Matavio Kontu from Kent State, a very great poet, and a griot, I would say. So if you can, come out and see us again, and thank you for all the poets, for all of you to come out and help us celebrate.